Thanks, Justin. This is probably Jessica and I's favorite part of the event. Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm Jessica Nevling, Associate Vice President of Product Strategy, and I'm really excited today because one of the things we're going to do is take a look back on 2022, looking at some functionality that we've already launched for you to make sure that everyone's aware of new things that you can actually use within the application, as well as take a forward look on things that are coming soon within various, development phases for the rest of 2022. So, James, you ready to go ahead and let's get started?
Absolutely. So as we go through the presentation today, you'll see some polls come up that we're going to ask questions about what you think about the technology or things that we could do differently. If you would please interact with us as we're going through this. We're going to start with the seller homepage, and we're doing some redesigns of our homepage because these are some of the oldest designs that we've had since we launched about 10 years ago. So we're trying to look at how do we put data out there in front of you easier, give you some new navigations, whether that's how to take a tour, how to get to the catalog different, give you new data points, give you some quick hits as to what are the last things that you went into. So as we go through this and other things, we'll start to bring out more functionality for you.
As James mentioned, navigation, it's going to be very familiar to you. You'll notice here that we kind of kept the same thing of the shelves that you're used to seeing when you go into the homepage. For example, on the seller side, you're going to still have your offer, your respond, and your manage shelves. The thing that we're going to do differently is we're going to roll up the data to give you some additional data insights and intel and allow you to start drilling in from the homepage. So let's actually go over to the settings. We're going to introduce you to some functionality that we launched earlier in this year. And this actually came over to us from one of our suppliers. They had actually reached out, asked us if we could look at building them this type of functionality. So if you go over to the settings, this is going to be what we call your manage users.
In the part for manage users, it really was a request that when Aptitude was first started, it was that you saw every provider in the market. And that was hard as you're looking at a national accounts that really wants a specific sales representative to have a specific entity. So the ask was, could we build out functionality that would allow the suppliers to go in and segment their sales team down to only those specific accounts that were necessary?
So when you land on this page, the first thing you're going to notice in this first example is that all organizations are automatically assigned to any users that are already within the platform. So what you need to do is come in, click on the icon. You can do this a couple of different ways. You can, if you already know who your user is that you want to assign to them, you can scroll through, or you can use the search feature to find. Once you unselect the access to all buyers, and once you select who you're trying to assign to them, save your settings, and you'll notice here now they only have one organization assigned to this user. Going back to the home page, we're now going to show you how to better navigate to the catalog. So the catalog is a feature that already exists today, but today it's from a cross-reference perspective. So going into the catalog, you're going to land on the Aptitude categories, and let's go in here and we'll describe to you some of the upcoming functionality that's coming soon.
And today the catalog is built so that you can come in and do cross-references. It's the only place today that we're housing all of your cross-references where you can come in and put primary and alternatives. What we're starting to build out for you now is the ability to come in here and edit in detail each of your products so that it's one place for you to truly manage your catalog on a go-forward basis.
You'll see here we've also added a brand new column. It's called the brand name. So suppliers, if you have any brand names associated with your products, make sure you're sending over that information to us because this is now going to show within the catalog as well as everywhere else throughout the platform on both the buyer and the seller side. One thing to show you up here in the details header column, anytime you see this arrow next to a top header, this tells you that there's additional data that's underneath here that you need to expand in order to get all the information. So I'm going to walk you through how we're going to give you edit capability. You'll see here, these are products, each individual product, and I'm going to open up the edit icon.
And so when she opens up the edit icon, you can start to see, as you showed a minute ago, the packaging string that says each. Maybe you need to edit that product. Maybe you need to change that to a case. Maybe you need to put this as a discontinued product, meaning that you are no longer going to be selling that. Or maybe it's that the categorization that the Aptitude team has done with this is not what you think it should be. So you want to choose wrong category so that it can go to our team to work through that.
So in this example, let's just say we move this item to a discontinued product. Once you've assigned that status, you need to make sure that you've also associated a cross-reference with that item since it is now discontinued. So you'll notice here in the View drop-down, we're just looking at your products. There's two different things then we're going to show you within what we call the crosses modal. In this first product, you'll see here, we're showing you 3 crosses in the market. This is going to show you not only any crosses that you've assigned to this product, but also any competitors assigned to you as well. So this is your product. You've got 2 competitors that have added crosses. You'll also notice over here, we're bringing over that crowdsourcing value analysis piece.
So we've shown you the seller homepage, some of the catalog enhancements that we're doing. As you can see, we're really focusing not on only driving value to a provider, but from the supplier market as well. How can we help add items to it to reduce extra things that you're doing on your side? So now let's go into the buyer homepage. Very similar to what you saw on the supplier homepage. Again, we're trying to add more data to you, make it easier for you to navigate through the screen, bringing in catalog, recent items that you've been working on, draft RFP, different ways that everything shows up on the screen at one time.
But you'll also recognize the same concept of the shelves that we were using previously with your Create, Execute, and Manage. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through features that we've already released that are available today when you're creating an RFP. So we want to make sure that everyone knows of new functionality that is available to you. When you land on what we call our list view, today you have the option to be able to toggle over. So make sure when you're clicking on this icon, this brings you to your list view. We're going to default to the aptitude categorization, but you do have the ability to change your view to also look at it from a PSC perspective. One of the things we're going to build out for you is the ability to then RFP by a PSC categorization. Now, when you land here on the details page, the feature that we've already launched that is available for you today is to be able to use a standard date range. Previously to this feature being launched, it was a 12 months spend, but now you have the option to come in, select your date range, and you, for example, we'll go to a 6-month date range.
And the reason we did this is we had a lot of hospitals that said, hey, I've shifted my volume in the last 3 months, 6 months, and I want to use that instead of a rolling 12 months. So we created the ability for you to add just 4 months, 6 months. We also gave you the ability in this view that you can actually take this back pre-pandemic, because one of the questions that we've been receiving is, can you show me what our data looks like pre-pandemic so that we know what our volumes were compared to our volumes today? So it's just another way for you to look at the data as you start to do this. If you do choose 3 months, 4 months, then what we're going to do is apply those changes, and we're actually going to give you what the annualized volume is of that 4-month range or 5-month range, whatever that is.
One thing I did want to take a moment to remind everyone is functionality that we actually released last year. It's our in-app guide help section. And if you notice that there's an icon right next to the Aptitude logo up at the top, this is where you can click and go to what we call our in-app guides that's powered by Stonely. So if you ever hear us refer to the Stonely application, this is where you can go to contact us to reach out. You can also do guide walkthroughs of step-by-step processes. And one that we have built out for you is this process exactly as to how to select a custom date range. Now let's go on over to the purchase history page. You'll notice here we're going to carry over that actual and annualized spend rolled up at the top for you, breaking down the products. We're also going to show you that brand name that we were referring to in the catalog on the seller side, as again, it shows on the provider side also. And then over here, we've got the spend with the arrow next to it that tells you that there's additional data underneath it. So once you expand it, we're going to break down that actual and annualized spend at the product level as well. Let's look at the supplier side. So we're going to go into a supplier response and land on the new overview page.
So as you come to the new overview page, again, this is a new page we're creating. It's sunsetting one of the older pages in the platform. Again, we're trying to provide a high level of information as the RFP comes across. We're showing you participants, categories, products, annualized spend. Again, that annualized spend comes across from the RFP, so you can start to see, that it's not the 12-month volume anymore, but it is that annualized. We're still going to show you your spend market share, what is the potential growth or how much cross-referencing do you have covered, what is the category spend, what is the incumbent products not crossed. So again, high-level information that we can go through with you. As we land on this page is very familiar to you. It's what you saw in the catalog, what we showed a little while ago. You can edit your products here. Any work that is done here will also transfer over to the catalog. So you're doing your work here or there. You're not trying to duplicate that work. You don't have to do it in both places. So all work here will cross over to that. This first page is My Product. So as you're looking at this, you're seeing the number of units and spend that you have with that provider, what we call incumbent products. If you click up on the top there, Jessica, to change it to competitor products, this is where you can start to see the products of your competitors. You notice here that we show you units, but we mask the spend. We do dollar signs. And that's so that we say if there's $5 signs, that means there's a lot of spend. You should absolutely make sure you cross that product. If it has $1 sign, we want you to cross it, but it's not going to have as big of an impact on the overall bid as you're going through this.
And then don't forget those products that you have edited and changed to a discontinued status. Just ensure that you come in and make sure that there's a cross associated with that product as well. Now moving over to the offer structure, this is where you're going to start then building out how you're going to respond to this RFP.
And so we started with originally market share, unit market share, went to combos of an and now we're going to start to create combos of an or, meaning that we're going to look at spend market share and or, in this case, or, spend volume. So are you looking to do, a spend market share commitment, or are you looking to do a spend volume commitment? Then you can look at what does that actually do for access. You have an access price. You have a 10% with your market share, but you have a volume commitment of 100,000. So after you submitted your offer, you land here on this page. You can see this is offer one, but you have the opportunity to submit as many offers as you want for this provider to be able to analyze those bids as they come back. So going back, the last piece that we're going to talk about is the manage refresh. Again, this is as we continue to add new data elements into the platform, getting down to line level detail. It starts to become overwhelming to look at these pages and see rows and rows of data. So we're starting to take a view of where we can take a step back, high level, start to give you some charts, some designs to look at, feel different as we start to look at how do you make this data easier to decipher. You'll still be able to get to that line level data that you always were, but when you come in here, this will give you an easier view to see how each of the contracts are performing.
Here we're looking at the participants page in particular. We're still going to roll up all of that spend, but we're going to break it out by spend with the contracted supplier versus those with competitor, showing you your total spend. And over here, we're going to give you your off-contract spend. This is what you're purchasing from the contracted supplier, but these items are not on contract yet. You'll notice here we've got several different headers that also have additional data underneath it. So make sure you just expand that before you go into using our export feature that's built into each of these grids. One of the features that we did launch last year was the ability to customize the date range within the Manage experience. So if you'll notice when I go up here to the date range, we are bringing in what we call preliminary data.
So one of the other things that we're starting to look at is how do we bring in Surgery Exchange? So providers and suppliers that are using Surgery Exchange, where you're getting real-time data. We're going to start to pull that into these date ranges, whether it's here in measurement, whether it's in the RFP process. It's really how quickly can we get data that we can start to provide to you in a different manner.
Now going into the categories page, we're going to carry that same spend across. The difference is we're now going to break that spend up by the subcategory. This is the scope of this contract. Going into products, you're now going to be able to look at line item information from what you're purchasing on and off contract within the scope. One of the things that we launched last year is the ability to pull up crosses by your contracted supplier. Make sure you go over to the filter icon, turn on your crosses, and what this is going to do is bring in those cross-references that your contracted supplier has already provided, whether it's during the RFP or in the catalog. Let's walk through some of these examples. So here, the second item is with the competitor that you're purchasing. You'll see here that your contracted supplier has provided a cross, but it is not on contract. But you'll notice your value analysis team has already reviewed and approved this cross. In the second example, this is one of the discontinued items that the supplier has already moved over to discontinued. You're still purchasing it though, but it is not on contract. And then you'll notice here that they've provided a cross that is on contract, but the value analysis team has not reviewed this item yet. And then this third example, this is going to be a competitor item that you're purchasing. Here is your cross that's been provided. It is on contract, and your value analysis team has already reviewed this item.
So we're really just trying to show you ways that you can come here and manage your contract over the life cycle, whether it's looking at how do you move products from competitors to the contracted supplier, which of those products are on or off contract, so that you know what work do you need to do. Are you moving products to a new product from the supplier but it's not on contract? Then that's a discussion you need to have with your supplier partner to get that item onto the contract. So again, it's more detail for you to be able to come in one place to be able to do your work to manage that contract. The last piece we want to cover is the seller book of business. It is a feature that we are starting, and this is one where, as we start to build out new designs and new options, we want feedback. This is one of those areas that we would love the feedback of our supplier partners to come in here and say, what are the critical pieces that you're looking at? So from a high-level design, we're looking at what are the total contracts that you have potentially across everything, or what's the total contracts you have with a particular provider. What's the spend with competitors? What's the potential growth? What are the growth metrics month over month? What's compliance looking like? Ideas that we can roll up to you at a broader view rather than looking contract by contract, but how could you start to look at a group of contracts differently as we move forward?
And as James mentioned, we're at the very beginning phases of designing this page. So one of the things we do want is for you to reach out to us, let us know, would you like to participate in future user sessions when we're working through upcoming functionality and designs? Several ways that you can do that. Email our ask@aptitude.com or that integrated in-app Powered by Stonely feature that I'd mentioned earlier. There's a contact us within that as well.
We appreciate your time today. Jessica and I will actually be going live here in a few minutes for Q&A. So please be prepared for your questions and look forward to talking to you.
Thank you.